out?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, students and ladies, for our panelists. Today, we have three amazing young ladies, and they're going to talk about the variety of different experiences that they've had after graduation. So we, as career development, we're always trying to make sure that we prepare you for the now and the after. So my name is Kristen Swims. I'm a career counselor in the Office of Career Development. We have our other career counselor, Teresa Stock, as well. And today we have some wonderful ladies joining us, Jess, Felicia, and Jessica. And I'd like for you guys just to start it off by briefly introducing yourself. When did you graduate and from what program? As well as what are you guys currently pursuing?
I can start.
All right, go for it.
I'm Jess. I just graduated this past December, and I was an IMC major. And then right now I'm working as an account coordinator at Modern Luxury Magazine. And yeah.
My name is Felicia. I graduated spring 2020 from the College of Arts and Sciences with a BA in psychology, and currently I'm in graduate school for industrial organizational psychology at Florida Tech.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jay-Z, or Jessica. I graduated not too long ago also, December 2019, majored in political science, and now I'm working as a Workday payroll consultant.
Awesome. For people who are just joining us and people who've been with us, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll make sure to get to them after. We've asked several questions for our panelists.
So for all of our panelists, how do you feel that your educational and co-curricular experiences prepared you for what you're doing now?
I can start again. I would say that both my classes and GPS program, I was in it all 4 years, both helped me. The thing that helped me most about the classes was for sure being able to get credit for internships. That's my favorite thing. I mean, I'd had 4 of them while I was in school, and I wouldn't have the experience I do without any of those 4. They were all so different, and I learned different things at each one. And also the GPS program, I mean, I wouldn't have gotten the internships without it. Informational interviews, interview practice, strengthening my resume, everything like that all the classes I went to all like played a part in getting those internships, which helped me get so far, for sure.
Yeah, I can totally agree with you, Jess. So being at Roosevelt and like trying to figure out what I wanted to do and what program I wanted to do, especially being a graduate student. So I'm in a doctoral program as opposed to like a master's. So by being a part of the professional mentoring program and talking to my mentor, who is a consultant currently, and hearing how she's like, oh yeah, I went for my PhD, and just having that kind of relationship with her to the point where she wrote my letter of recommendations. So it was able to Roosevelt really helped me figure out how I wanted to continue on in the world, as well as how to balance everything. Because if you ever just looked around and saw me doing anything on campus, I was doing 10,000 things and doing classes and I was still able to graduate with high honors. So being able to juggle things has definitely translated over to now, because I feel like I'm still doing 10,000 things at the same time.
Yeah, so I majored in political science, and I think that helped me a lot. GPS helped me a lot also, but with political science, it really helped me hone those critical thinking skills, looking at problems from just looking at the relationships and connections between people, states, organizations, and it's really helped me with my job now as a consultant, just being able to, juggle and handle and see all these clients who bring their different attitudes, personalities, and perspectives on what's best for the company. and really, yeah, be able to juggle all of that. And then GPS helped me a lot. I distinctly remember this workshop where Kristen and Teresa talked about scanners, and it kind of just like blew my mind, because I think all my life I was like, oh, I've always had trouble focusing on one thing that I wanted to learn about. And scanners are people who, who like to explore like a wide range of interests and maybe not necessarily wanting to stay in one interest for a long time. So that was like, it helped me a lot. I feel like I'm okay now with exploring a wide range of hobbies or interests and careers rather than sticking to one thing if it's not working. Yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna kind of piggyback off of some things that you guys said. So, Jess, because I know you had so many different internships, can you tell me what were some of those big takeaways from your internship experiences?
Yeah, I think just like Jay-Z was just saying right now, the good thing about it is you don't have to like apply for one kind of job. So they were all so different, and I applied even though I wasn't sure which one I wanted to go in. So I had a PR internship, I had a marketing internship, I had a social media internship. And so my takeaway was that like they're all transferable skills. They're all helping me now, and I'm interested in all of them. And the more experience, I don't rule something out because it doesn't like fit your exact job description of what you think you want to do. So I think it's just the best thing is to go outside that little box and apply for things that you wouldn't think that you would have applied for otherwise.
Definitely. Felicia, you talked about doing 10,000 things, and I do remember you had your hand in a lot of pots. So tell me a little bit about those kind of 10,000 things that you did on Roosevelt and how it really helped kind of prepare you for today.
Yeah, so I was a McNair scholar, as if many of you know, because Peggy is very adamant about letting everyone know that is an opportunity for them. So being a McNair scholar, I had to do a lot of like research and be able to present my research. So that helped me with like my public speaking skills and creating PowerPoints and posters. And then I was also a part of the student conduct board, which taught me a lot about how to handle sensitive information and how to provide feedback to people, which I kind of put to my now with like helping people figure out how to, progress from a point where they might be low. And then I was also a part of GPS, so I was able to go to those workshops and learn more about stuff like that. And then I mentioned the professional mentoring and how that helped me too. And then I also worked for Res Life, which like that kind of showed me how it is to work in an office space and kind of how people are constantly moving around, which kind of helps now when I'm like doing projects and trying to figure out how can I make this team better, because I've seen a great team already at Roosevelt. So now I can translate those skills that I learned there into helping people and organizations now.
Definitely. Very awesome. Okay, trying to kind of piggybacking off of what you guys have already talked about, how did you create your current job experience or gain or receive that job or educational experiences, Felicia? Like, what was your pathway?
I can start this time, Jess. So with like McNair, they made everyone sign up for a summer research opportunity program. So I applied for one for Michigan State University the summer of my junior year at Roosevelt. And as a transfer student, I was like, oh, I need to go find someone to do a letter of recommendation for this. So building that relationship with like a professor that I had the semester before I needed to turn it in really helped me with that. And then I got accepted, and I spent the whole summer doing research, just growing as a person. And that really helped with my application into applying for grad school, because I already had the experience of doing research and working with the team and knowing exactly like what I wanted. And that summer really made me realize that IO was the place for me and that I needed to like grow as a student. So you have to take those opportunities that you have and kind of just run with them. And that was just one of those opportunities.
Oh, I can go. Yeah. My company's HR recruiter found me through LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn, you should definitely make one. I actually didn't make one until like 2 years ago, my junior year, pretty late in the game. But yeah, I think just showing that you're open to like new opportunities and really filling out all those fields. I I had a background in payroll a little bit, but now I know that what I did was super simple and way different. Um, so yeah, just yeah, getting that networking in and meeting people, and I'm glad I didn't ignore her message when she messaged me on LinkedIn, responding and just yeah, treating people like they're people.
For me, I was interning at Modern Luxury last year. So when I graduated, they hired me full time. I was still applying for other jobs just to be safe when I was graduating, but I ended up staying with the company. I loved working there. I was learning so much and I wanted to keep staying. So I stayed.
Awesome. So I know so far we've talked about all the good things, right? But we all know that, especially in 2020, things are not always all good, right? So if you could all talk about maybe some challenges you faced either while you're in school or while you're in school now, Felicia, or finding your current job or finding an internship while you were in school. If you can talk about some of those challenges that you faced and how you got through those and worked through those.
I think the hardest part is you're applying for so many jobs and you're not hearing back from that many. Not all of them are going to get back to you for an interview or more information. Some you just might never hear anything from. And that can really, you're like, oh, why am I like putting all the time into my cover letters and my resume when, I'm not hearing back as much. But I think that you just have to not let that slow you down. You have to like kind of expect it, that they're not all gonna give you feedback and say, oh, here's what you're missing, here's what you should have done. But take all the interviews you can, and even if it's not like your number one dream job, like any interview is good practice, I think. So just keep applying for as many as you can, and it's all good practice, and it's all gonna help you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that a lot. Just like applying and really trying, or just going for it, even if you don't think you're a perfect fit. Because I think 9 times out of 10, you're almost always never a perfect fit for any job listing or position. All those requirements on paper, it's not about that. It's more about marketing yourself like to the company and seeing or convincing them that you're the best fit. I know in school I always had this fear that I wouldn't be able to find a job I'm passionate about, but looking back, I'd tell myself to chill out and think more about how this opportunity or job could benefit me and how I could help the company. So yeah, that would be. I will say that working from home is a big challenge since you don't have access to your coworkers as resources, especially if you're like new on the job and there's a lot of training involved. But yeah, just utilizing your resources, like if you use Slack, whatever messenger apps that you use.
Now, Jessica, did you start your job? Sorry, Felicia. Jessica, did you start your job after COVID-19 kind of became a thing, or were you already in that job before everything started?
So I actually started at probably the worst possible time. I received my job offer in February. They actually rejected me at first, and then I got it back. So never lose hope, I guess. Yeah. I started beginning of March, and then pandemic happened in the middle of March, and then that's when it went all virtual. So I was in the office for 1 week, and that was it.
Yeah, so that makes working from home extra challenging, right? Because you didn't even have much experience in the office leading up to that. So that's rough. but you're doing it, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was weird because like my last semester was in a pandemic. So now I'm like, oh, at least I know what like virtual kind of feels like. So now starting graduate school, I had that kind of feel. But it was because I was waiting to hear back from schools. And I heard more no's than yeses. So that was like really hard and impacted how I was feeling that last semester by trying to make sure that I still was completing assignments and then trying to make sure that I graduated and everything. And then hearing that yes, and then realizing, wait, I have to start graduate school in the middle of a pandemic. And now like I moved back to Florida because that's where I'm originally from. So now I'm just stuck in my apartment going to class and not really like being able to hang out with my cohort or like my mentor. So it's a lot of virtual stuff. So like that's a really big challenge because especially with my program, they're very like, let's go hang out, let's all get to know each other. And it's hard for them to figure out how to translate that over to like virtual stuff. So it's been very like disconnecting. So that's something I had to deal with.
Felicia, I'm going to kind of go off of something you said. You said you heard more no's than yeses. So how did you remain positive during those times?
So actually, it was after our talk we had right before everything went down, and we were talking about like what I should do if I don't get into graduate school. And I was really sitting back and thinking, okay, so if I start to hear more no's than yeses, what is my next step? So I started looking into like possible internships or actually working full time for at least a year to get some more experience. So that way, like I can be a better applicant and as well be a better IO psychologist. So I had to be like, okay, I just need to be positive and I need to be like, there is going to be a yes eventually. So I knew that even if it wasn't a yes in this wave of applications, the next wave is going to be a yes. And if not that one, the next. So I was going to keep applying until I got into somewhere because I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And I need that degree to be able to do it, especially with like the field I'm in. It's not something that you can really achieve with like only a bachelor's, which is kind of sad because of like how intense it is to get into graduate school. So I wouldn't say it's like luck because like it was a combination of a lot of things to get me here, and I don't want to discredit any of those people by saying it was just luck that got me that one yes that I needed. But it was a lot of like trusting that the people around me trusted me too. Like I was able to talk to one of my mentors who actually still works at Roosevelt, Adrian Thomas, and he was like, it's okay. Most people don't get into graduate school the first time they apply. So you're lucky you even had the opportunity to like be in your name, be in places that it couldn't have been in. And that he encouraged me like, don't worry, we'll find something for you to do during that year till you get into somewhere. And he believed that I would get into somewhere eventually. So, and also when I got that yes, he was like, yes, I already knew you were going to get into somewhere. So it's like, you have to surround yourself with people who believe in you.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great point too, Felicia. Sometimes we know what we want, we know where we want to be, but sometimes it happens on a different timeline than we had originally hoped, right? And obviously you did get that yes, so your timeline did work out, but even if it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't mean that it's never going to, and that there are other opportunities that you can take advantage of to help you prepare you even further for when you do get that yes. So that's a great point.
All right, you ladies have given some really amazing advice already, but what advice would you tell current Roosevelt students? And it could be more than one thing. Just go for it.
I would say definitely just like Felicia's been saying, like stay positive because you will get your yes. And like with that, also just work as hard as you can. Even though it's hard right now, you can still be doing it the same like as if you were in person, just over Zoom or however it's going to happen now. Especially, I always say with internships, do as much as you can, even if it's not a part of the job description. Try to learn as much as you can. Learn about different departments, talk to different people, ask for more work, ask what you can learn, what they can teach you, what they can show you. And I think the more that you try to learn, the better you'll be, the more experience you'll have, the more connections you'll make. And yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Felicia, did you want
No, Jason, you can go.
Okay. Yeah, I love what Jess said. I guess piggyback off of that, I'd say you should definitely, whether you're looking for like a school or if you're looking for the next job opportunity, internship, or you should definitely make a list of like pros and cons of what you want from, I guess, like how you want to grow or like what you want from a company. I think that was really good advice that I got. What kind of work culture you want to be in, growth opportunities, how often, really using the interview process to learn about companies, how often you'll talk to your manager, ways that you can maybe even getting your master's while at your job? Like, are there opportunities for that? Work-life balance? So yeah, just making those pros and cons, Yeah, like, if you want unlimited PTO, maybe that's something that you can look for.
Yeah. Also, I would suggest talking to your professors. Like, I know that everything's virtual, but I'm pretty sure there's virtual office hours. Pop in there. They're lonely. Talk to them because like I learned a lot by just going in and talking to professors that I found interesting and it was in fields that had nothing to do with IO, but it was just more of like learning about how they're like doing what they're doing outside of the classroom, what their life is like and how they got to where they are, because I knew I wanted to be a professor. So talking to them and then going to events like this help, and also joining things. Like, as I said, I've joined so many things, but they've all had a piece in making me who I am now. So don't be afraid to join something, even if it's virtual. You may gain more by being in a virtual setting than being in person, because now you have an excuse to go message that person more questions that you might not have felt to do in person. So you have to like really take everything and work with it and work with the resources that you have at Roosevelt, especially like going into especially career development and figuring out what you want to do. Because I remember going to Christian with my CV and telling her, hey, can you help me? And just like being able to have that. So as a Roosevelt student, don't be afraid to use Roosevelt to its full extent.
Awesome, thank you. So for all of you, if you were in a position to be able to hire new Roosevelt graduates, what would you look for? In their resume, in interviews, specific skills, whatever, what would you look for?
I would say I would just want to see that they're, even though it's hard, that they're still positive and they're still putting themselves out there, and they can be able to say, oh, here's what I'm doing in all this extra time. Here's how I'm trying to learn. Here's what I'm spending my free time doing that's helping me, that would make me good for this role. And if it's, I know like LinkedIn has been doing like little free like classes for my field, something like that, just that shows that even though they might be stuck at home, that they're still trying to learn somehow and they're still trying to get out there.
Well, even though I'm not working, but like my field focuses on that, and we do a lot of like figuring out how to hire people and like selection. So I have like, my first semester of selection and understanding of that. I know that people are like looking at whether or not you're doing multiple things. So it's okay, just like with Jess and Jay-Z, their resume is full of multiple different things that don't align in one thing when you verbally talk about it. But when you put it into a story where it's like, oh, I see why you decided to do marketing and then PR, like I see the connection now. So making sure that your resume has some form of connection and it tells the story of you.
Yeah, I think that's super important, because in my interview, the manager specifically asked me why did I think that I was a good fit, because they thought that political science and consulting had nothing to do with each other. So like, yeah, like really talking, making that connection, writing your own story and letting them know what you're good at, those transferable skills. And I'd say if I was going to hire someone, I'd be looking for, that drive to learn and grow, that being able to collaborate, how you take initiative, and also really being honest, I think, in the interview. I knew nothing about Excel, and he was like, oh, that's fine. Like, I can easily teach someone. They would rather you tell them than just pretend that you know something that you don't. So, yeah.
So for all of you, I think all of you in one way or another mentioned being able to tell your story and talk about what you've been doing, right? So for all of you, whether it was a job interview or maybe an interview you had to have to get into your graduate program, how do you feel you were able to tell your story? Did you write notes and kind of figure it out in your head ahead of time? Did you do mock interviews? What exactly do you feel you did to prepare to be able to tell your story?
I think both of those are really good, mock interviews and taking notes. I love to just like have all my thoughts out on paper, read it through it in the morning before the interview, like all the time, just have the main points that I want to make sure I don't forget to talk about so I can remember those. So writing it down is really good. And I think what's important is just being as specific as you can, like saying why you're a good fit, like what you've done that would make you a good fit, like specific projects that you worked on, specific things that you were taught, programs. I think it's just better than being generic and saying, oh yeah, I know PR, I know marketing, I know social media. Like, give an example of a project you had on social media where you were successful, and you can like give numbers, you can show that you are a good fit.
Yeah, so I feel very passionate about what I want to do, and I always show that in any interview for anything. And I always relate it back to like my core goal and like what my goal in life is. It's to help people. So as long as I'm able to like help people, then I'll be able to succeed. And I always show that in every interview. And I expand on that with like what they might be looking for and specifications. And that's like where my story stems from. So that's how I kind of grow into it.
Yeah, I definitely wrote notes. I feel like it helps me put my thoughts down so much clearer and like better when even if I'm not going to read it word for word. The fact that I've written it down, it's already, been refined in my mind. And then also really using each interview that I did to keep refining my story. The more I did it, the more I repeated it, the better it got, the more consistent, the more concise. So that really helped. I'll say practice makes perfect in this case, a lot. Yeah.
All right. To all of our students who are joining us, remember that you can add a question in the chat box, and we will get to your questions and have each panelist answer for you. But until then, so go ahead and do that right now. You can type your question in the chat box. But for each one of you, young ladies, if you had a chance to do it over again, what would you do differently?
The $1 million question. Huh?
I want to say take advantage of informational interviews. I think they're so underrated. And just like thinking back, I could have done so many more. Like I don't know if a lot of people talk about them or do them. I don't know a lot of my like classmates that were doing them, but I think that they're so important and they can be so helpful. For me, I was like, oh, I don't really want to reach out to people. It's hard. I don't know. They're not going to say yes. But they will. They will. They'll talk to you. They'll answer any questions, and it gets you a connection. It gets you like a foot in the door. If you don't have a job interview yet or anything, having that like person know you is just something important to have.
Jess, can you talk a little bit more about what informational interviewing is
Yeah.
for students joining who might not be sure?
Yeah, so I did a couple of them. I would reach out to someone who had a job that I wanted to do at a company I would want to work at or something. And I would just say, I'm a student. I am interested in that field. I would love to just ask some questions if you have some time. And they'll get back to you. And I met like one girl for coffee one day, and I asked her all these questions about her job and everything. And then I ended up working there later as an intern. And I mean, I'd like to say that helped. That helped me get in there. But it's just a good way to meet people who are doing what you want to do and get some answers straight from them.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that wholeheartedly. I think I would have done more informational interviews, like Jess said, just so I could learn more about all these. Because there's so many jobs and positions out there that, you don't really hear about. And just learning about them and knowing that they exist can really help, I think, help you find maybe help you envision what you want to do 10 years from now, or 5 years, 2 years. Yeah, having those informational interviews. And then it's never too late. You can do them now. I'm doing them more now. And the worst thing you can get is like a no, then you move on to the next person. It's fine. Yeah.
One thing I would have done, like if I could change, is like if I were to network more. Now that I'm thinking about it, because it feels like now that we're in an age where it's like technology is important, I would have made sure that all my friends had LinkedIn and made sure that everyone was like on that, as well as just utilizing that experience I had when I went into my summer research and making sure that I networked more at that institution, because I did a fair amount, but I'm like now realizing that I'm focusing more on like interdisciplinary things. So it would have been interesting to talk to different departments instead of focusing mainly on like, because I was dealing with like communications and psychology. So kind of like paying attention more to different fields and like how to interpret them and like include them into what I'm doing now.
Awesome.
Oh, one thing. I'd say get your feet wet. Yes. Try everything that you can.
Definitely.
All right. Well, we all know while going to school is, of course, very important and helps prepares us for future careers and everything, but we don't learn everything inside the classroom, right? So if you could talk a little bit more about skill sets that you feel are important to learn or important to have that maybe you didn't necessarily gain inside the classroom, but that you kind of learned along the way outside of the classroom.
Email etiquette. That's one thing that I learned being an assistant, and just knowing that like people do not know how to email properly. And if you do know how to email properly, people will see you as an asset, and people will want you on their team, because hey, this person can clearly tell this other group of people what we need them to do and what we need to get done. So that's one skill I definitely learned from outside of the classroom.
I think all communication, like going off of that, like that's something where it doesn't matter what you're doing, like it'll help you no matter what job you're applying for. So stuff like that, communicating over email, in person, anything, I think.
Yeah, I'd say definitely for me, I'd say I'm learning more about time management now than when I was at Roosevelt. Not that I wasn't learning it, but yeah, really, I think making those connections with whoever you're working with. Also, work-life balance, having those boundaries, how you want to manage your time, and just really like learning your style of how you do things. Do you want to be more routine, or you want to set a different schedule for yourself? Yeah, just time management.
Okay. You guys at the beginning talked a little bit about what you're currently doing and what's the title of your position. Can you give me some more of your specific roles, Jess and Jay-Z, and then also Felicia, on the specifics of your program and the specific things that you're doing within that program?
So I am working as an account coordinator, which means I work on the ads in the magazine, designing those, bringing those to life, like ideas with that. And then also I'm working on running their digital campaigns. So I work on our weekly e-newsletters, our clients' dedicated emails, social media, blogs on our website, all of our, anything digital is what I touch to.
Yeah, so if you've never heard of Workday, so I'm a Workday payroll consultant at TopBlock, and Workday is this, just in a nutshell, a cloud-based system where you store all your finance, HR, and planning in one. So with payroll, we help companies transition all of their payroll information into Workday, so that everything's streamlined. So, employees get to access their pay stubs, PTO requests, time, whatever, benefits, everything in one place. Yeah, so I never thought I'd be doing this. It's more technical than it sounds like, and I have like a new respect for payroll people. Yeah.
So like currently my program has both master students and doctoral students. And for my cohort, it's about like 19 of us. And we all have the option to join either the Institute of Cross-Cultural Management or the Center for Organizational Effectiveness. and I'm in both because I really enjoy doing both of them. And currently I'm working on a project within the Center of Organizational Effectiveness on like an external consulting project. So like that's actually like applied work within the field that I'm in. So that's like the closest I get to do to actual work while being in school. So yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to put it out there that you can definitely go ahead and add some questions in the chat box if you'd like. But I want to ask the miracle question. So, if everything was perfect and everything aligned just right, what would you want to do ultimately in the future? Right? Take some time.
That is a very difficult question.
Weirdly enough, like I have an answer for that, but it's like I want to be a director, which is like nothing to do with psychology or IO, but like I know that those are like stable things, and that's kind of like what was instilled in me as a child to like find stability. But if everything was perfectly aligned, I would be a director doing like documentaries in faraway places and like looking at different cultures.
I think in the future for me, I'll definitely want to go back into marketing side of it. I'm learning so much now, and it's like amazing experience, but I think ultimately I'll definitely want to go back to marketing.
Yeah. Oh, Felicia, I love that you want to be a director. I think that'd be amazing. I guess for me, if it was like a perfect thing, I'd want to be a writer. If I could write books and live off of that, that would be great. Yeah, and then just like giving back to nonprofits somehow, working for them. Yeah.
I think you guys answers definitely go within the fact that you don't have to do just one thing, right? That's an old school model. You can mix it up. You can do a variety of different things. You just have to have that plan, right? So yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, if there are no, Teresa, do you have any questions?
I was just going to ask, I guess, just thinking about following up on the informational interview questions, or some of your answers that you gave, and talking about wishing that you did more of those. For the ones that you did do previously, how did you go about finding those people to actually do them with? Like, did you go on LinkedIn, or did you go through people you knew, professors? How did you do that?
For me, one of them was on LinkedIn, and then I had another one that was actually on Instagram. It was someone who I've met like once. I didn't like know her, but I knew of her, and we had each other on Instagram, and I literally just sent her a message, and I said, "Hey, I'm interested in this, and I'd love to like ask you some questions." And she responded right away, and she was like, "Let's meet. I'm happy to talk." And I got so much like good information out of that, and I have her like as a contact now. It was just really awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
I guess for the recent one that I did, it was with someone that I went to high school with, actually. So I just messaged her on Facebook. And yeah, I learned way more about the company that I otherwise wouldn't have learned at all, just from their website. I will say that I did one when I was at Roosevelt. It wasn't an informational interview. It was more like I went to an event for a nonprofit that they were hosting, and I learned so much about them. And I got to meet, because they're a small team, so I got to meet all the directors, which was really helpful. Yeah.
Awesome. And I guess if we don't have any other questions from students, which again, feel free to type your questions in the chat box, that now is the time to ask away. Is there anything else that we haven't asked you all about yet that you want to share with current students, whether it's just advice or more information about your experiences, anything else that you feel that students should know?
I think something we didn't talk about that much is LinkedIn, and it's really important. I think we touched on it, but not like in depth. I think like making the most out of that is so important, and it can be so helpful. There are recruiters, you can like connect with people who have your job, who you want to know more about. You can send them a message, say who you are and what you want to know. And it's just good to get your name out there. And if people are looking to hire and your search criteria comes up, I mean, that's another way they can find you. And it's just a really good thing to have.
I also agree with that, yeah, because on LinkedIn, especially if you start like connecting with people in the realm of like what you want to do, a lot of them will share like information on potential events that they might be having and going to those events. Because there's someone that like came and spoke to our school, and she like I connected with her, and she's looking for an intern. So I'm in the process of like trying to talk with her about diversity and inclusion, because that's what her main focus is. And just by like going to that event and deciding like, hey, I'm going to wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning and get dressed and look presentable and go on Zoom and actually interact with the speaker, I was able to like, now I'm on my way to try to find an internship. So it's a lot of like, you have to be proactive on Zoom, on LinkedIn, and make sure that you're adding people that will be beneficial for what you want to focus on. And even just adding people who will find like more connections for you. You never know, that person who may be working as a job analyst somewhere in Australia might have a connection to someone that you need to talk to that's in America, that's only 10 minutes away. But by not connecting with that person and talking with them, you would never know that they had a better connect for you.
Agreed with all the above. I definitely say, I guess also with your major, if you feel that some of the positions or programs that you're looking at for after graduation aren't maybe your cup of tea, and you feel like you're limited, don't feel boxed in by your major. Definitely like explore outside of that if you want to. I think now more than ever with like LinkedIn and all these like classes online, free resources that you can get into. You know, if you're into like coding, there's like free coding bootcamp resources that you can get into. So yeah, don't feel boxed in by what you think you should be in.
I think that's a great point, because I think a lot of times students feel like when they're looking for jobs, and especially if they're graduating or getting close to graduation, that they have to only apply to things where it says the company's looking for somebody with their specific major. And a lot of times that's not the case. A lot of times people just want to see that you have the degree, and they're not necessarily always concerned what the degree is in. So I think that's a great point. And the points that you made about LinkedIn as well were also great. I feel like so many people, not just students, but even people I know personally, they have LinkedIn profiles, and then they just kind of sit back and wait for everyone to come to them. And of course, you know, recruiters use it, and sometimes you will be approached, or you might be approached about a job, but the more proactive you can be with it, the more effective it's going to be. So thank you for touching on that as well.
Well, we want to thank you ladies so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us and to help Roosevelt current students and maybe a few alumni as well on here. You guys are really, really great, and each have really great advice that I know will be beneficial for our students.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to, kind of plug career development. We are still doing career counseling appointments over Zoom, and we're going to be adding some new programs to our Save the Dates flyers. So make sure that you look out for that. We are going to be postponing our virtual career fair, so that will not take place November 5th, but it will happen December 8th from 2 to 5 p.m. Look on Handshake for more information for that. And that being said, we will also postpone our virtual career fair prep, which was going to happen December 3rd at 3 p.m. as well. So look out for those reminders, especially if you're a GPS student. But if you're not, just look out for those reminders on Handshake and through your email. Next week, we have a virtual drop-in hours, November 4th. So make sure you drop in if you have any questions about some of those changes as well. All right. Well, we don't have any questions in the chat box, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. Thank you for joining us today, students and alumni. We appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Aw.